Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion Knives. Live from the campus of Tom Radio, under the direction of Guido, Scoot, and Johnson, it's the pride of podcasting. It's Got Your Eers On.
All right, everybody, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scoot.
This one's for you.
And Johnson.
Take that, Raiders.
Take that, Red Raiders. Yeah. I mean, probably some of the most exciting basketball we've watched all season, I think. It was a good time to watch that game, Johnson.
Well, a good time, or as I wish I had the tweet in front of me, but someone said to kind of parlay John Rothstein's always a tough weekend at your in-laws or whatever he says, we could kind of start to say things like, West Virginia basketball, you'll maximize your blood pressure medicine. I saw that tweet and I was like, yes, that feels about right. This was like a roller coaster of a game.
Yeah, so West Virginia, after 2 weeks off on a COVID break, comes back and they handle a not so good K-State team in Manhattan, and then come back and win just an awesome game against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We'll start with the game, though, guys, against K-State. And I will say, and I think whoever was doing the play-by-play on ESPN said the same thing, which is like, West Virginia couldn't have asked for a better team to come off of a 2-week, barely practicing, stint to play against, because K-State might be the worst team in D1 basketball. They were bad.
Yeah, it's like one of the first good scheduling things to happen to us in a while, right? I mean, if you had to come back and play a game, that was certainly not a bad situation to be in. And do you know, I didn't realize it until afterwards. I was, reading some recap, but so we won that game 69-47. You guys already know that if you're listening, but did you know that I saw John Antonik tweeted it out. I've got it in the show notes that that was the largest road margin of victory since WVU has been in the Big 12. Did you realize that? I didn't think about that at the time, but that 22-point victory was apparently the biggest since we've been in the conference.
I'm not surprised. I mean, and we'll talk about other conferences here in a little bit, but I'm not surprised. It's a tough conference. It is a tough basketball conference. As much as we hate the travel and the teams, and, as Scoot always complains, Manhattan and Ames aren't exciting places. There are a lot of good teams in the conference. There are a lot of we have, how many teams are in the top 10 right now in the conference, top 12. So, but K-State is not one of those teams. And I think we all kind of went, and we texted back and forth, the three of us, before it started, Scooty, and we were all kind of nervous about, what is it going to look like? They haven't practiced in 2 weeks. And then they come out with this weird, for lack of a better term, starting five with McCabe, Bridges, McBride, Culver, and Sherman, which is a starting five we definitely haven't. I don't even know if we've seen those five guys on the court at the same time at all this season. And it worked.
Yeah, I think some of that was obviously illness related. I think what we've heard since that game is that Derek Culver and Evan Matthews really hadn't even practiced up until that game. So that's, and I think if we know Coach Huggins, that's a lot of times a deciding factor. If guys haven't practiced, he doesn't feel good about putting them in the starting lineup for sure, let alone a lot of playing time. Those guys happen to be very good players, so they did get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, and I saw that, I guess, Emmett Matthews got really sick, and he's down something like 15 pounds. He's lost a lot of weight, and, so for him, it's going to be a hill just to climb back up. And in the 2 games he's played, very little, but at least, really well. And then on the other side of that, Scooter, you had your boy, Jordan McCabe, who was one of the few players that didn't miss any time. He got to practice the whole 2 weeks, and it showed with 2 starts back to back.
Yeah, he's looked more confident, and I think that's, for Jordan, that's pretty big. 'Cause I think we've talked about it, but he had a fairly successful tail end of his freshman year where it looked like he could become a leading scorer type player or the next better basketball player for WVU. Had kind of a rough sophomore season, and now he's kind of bouncing back a little bit here midway through his junior year.
Yeah, and I thought too we talked about that being sort of some good medicine for coming back from this COVID pause. But K-State, we were texting each other during the game a little bit too, that it felt like coming into the game, I didn't really expect a whole lot of anything. We didn't know who we were going to see. We knew things were going to be rough, so I was just looking forward to seeing if we could, compete and play and get guys through the whole game. I think at certain times of the game, I felt like, and we were texting back and forth, it was a good thing K-State is that bad, because for parts of that game, we looked really rough too. I think there was like one stretch Kansas State had like 5 straight turnovers. We really didn't take advantage of it. So,
Johnson, I hate to break Guido. I hate to break in. I've got some breaking news. They just turned the ball over again.
Yeah, right. WVU had 26 points off of turnovers from K-State, and K-State just overall 28 turnovers in a game. I mean, and at one point they were averaging, it was like one turnover per minute in the game. They were averaging more turnovers per minute than points at one point in the first half. So Bruce Weber is, he's in a tough spot there in Manhattan right now with that team.
Their bright spot for me was a guy that apparently is from Angola, and I apologize to any Angolan listeners out there that we may have on the podcast. How do we do in Angola on the downloads?
I don't know if we've ever gotten
I think we're sparse. Yeah, I think we're sparse.
Well, I didn't know they played organized basketball in Angola, and this guy's apparently on the Angolan national team. And he was probably the one guy that had a little bit of get up and go on their team. I think his last name was Miguel. Is that right? Does that sound right?
Well, and he was big too. I mean, he was a sizable dude. He was a pretty good matchup for DC. And I think one thing I was going to bring up, Scoot, too, do you remember on last week's show, we were kind of like, has Kansas State ever been good at basketball? And I was sitting here thinking, well, I think we're forgetting some stuff. And then watching that Kansas State game, ESPN was like, well, if you think back to the 2019 team that won the regular season, and I was like, oh man, yeah, right. We just don't remember that because it's Kansas State. Right. But they've had some success. They're just really down. And I think in this game, like you're saying, I think that particular guy was a bright spot, and I think they have some really young players as well. So, I think they're athletic. They just really didn't have it together.
I like that the way the game played out kept Squawks McGee kind of in check.
Well, I think the mask helped that too.
Yeah, I do too.
I think the mask helped out, and there were times where the camera would pan to him, and it looked like Bruce Weber was going to swallow the mask. He was breathing so hard.
He was just like
hyperventilating. It was like a paper bag.
Yeah, it was very upsetting. I was kind of concerned for him, but yeah. So the K-State game. I mean, Seni Njai got almost 9 minutes of playtime, which was interesting to see. And
can we also talk about this EMAW, this EMAW thing that they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the every man a wildcat. I think is what they call it.
That's ridiculous.
Are you sad, Scoot, that we don't have a slogan like that?
No, what are you gonna put on a do you think that the football team should be wearing TTC masks? Trust the climb? I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
No, it's ridiculous. Every man a wildcat.
Apparently, that's a thing they've been saying for years. That's nothing new.
Yeah, I think that's been their thing for a long time.
It's still weak.
So we handle K-State. We come out of the COVID break. We handle K-State okay, and we move on to play the number 10 ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders. We were ranked 11th, so we moved up on Monday in the AP poll to 11th. Texas Tech ranked 10th, and pretty good team coming into this year, especially defensively. Texas Tech hasn't let a lot of points get on the board with any of their foes, and then on top of that, you got. And I'm gonna hear it from Scoot. Mac McClung is he's a star. He's a baller.
He's a great player. He's a great player. He would be a guy we would love to have him. I would like to have him. Yeah, you may not like him. I don't know if you do or don't, but I would love to have that type of player.
I don't know if you know this, Scooty, but he's not far from Morgantown. He's just across the state line in Virginia. He's a local. I mean,
yeah, just down the road.
Frashilla must have said that
road.
75 times during the game. He's got family. There's 10 members of his family here.
I started to think about all the other places that are 5.5 hours away that I could say are just down the road.
Like Toronto, Canada? He's just from up the road in Toronto.
Indianapolis.
Gabe pretty much plays at home.
Practically a homecoming
Gabe Osaboy, and that's why he went to WVU, is because it's he wants to play in front of his hometown crowd.
So the Texas Tech game, kind of up and down, a little bit of roller coaster. Make sure you were taking your blood pressure medicine and checking your pulse along the way. West Virginia, at one point with about 8 minutes left to go in the first half, was up 10 points and then just kind of saw that lead evaporate away. It was really weird. There were turnovers. There were just other there were a lot of offensive rebounds they were giving up and just kind of evaporated to a tie at the half. And I think that Huggins was, frustrated with the team for little things. And I think it's all, I definitely think you see the fact that not having those many practices, the COVID slowing them down, a guy like, Emmett Matthews, who usually gets a lot of minutes, coming in and out of the game a lot, getting a lot of breaks. Culver was getting a lot of breaks. You saw that defense.
DC only played 18 minutes. That's very unlike him.
And that defense really struggled. That defense struggled so much in the last 5-8 minutes of that first half.
Well, but in the moment after the win last night, I went to bed. I tried to go to bed. It's always hard to sleep after these 9 p.m. tip-offs, but I went to bed thinking just how great of a win this was. And from this morning after I woke up throughout the day, the more I think about this, the more amazing I think it is that we won this game last night, because I think Chris Beard and Texas Tech, I mean, they don't need any help. And then here you are coming off of this COVID pause. You don't have guys at 100%. You talked about Matthews being down like 15 pounds. DC can't play, he can only play 18 minutes. So, that's always going to be a battle at full strength for us to really dig down and pull this game out. I think it's amazing. I think the guys need a whole lot of credit for that.
And I think the other thing is, Johnson, along with that is, West Virginia, the turnover discrepancy was really rough. And Texas Tech had 25 points off of turnovers. West Virginia had 0 points off of turnovers. You look at the foul shooting, free throws, again, were another problem for West Virginia. But yet, through all of those problems, they really dug it out and pulled off a good win.
For me, there's three things that made this game close. And maybe it wouldn't have been as close if these three things hadn't happened. So the first one is that Derek Culver sat more than we're used to seeing him sit. And I think when he was out of the game, we really struggled for whatever reason, whether it be stopping the drives into the paint or just that presence of having a guy like him, because I like Gabe, but he's not Derek, and I like Senny. Senny's not even close to Derek. So I think that was an area where they started to come back on us. Another thing is it appeared to me that we kind of slacked off on guarding Mac McClung, and some of that was just matchups. If and this is not to slight him, but if Sean McNeil is playing defense on Mac McClung's going to beat him 9 times, maybe 10 times out of 10. If Jordan McCabe is playing defense on Mac McClung, he's going to beat him 9 times or 10 times out of 10. The times we were good and could keep Mac McClung in front of us was when we had Kedrian Johnson, who did a really good job on him, and Deuce. The problem is if you rely on Deuce all the time, he's going to use a lot of energy trying to stop a good player on defense, and you're not going to have him for as much on offense. The third factor as to why this game was close is, if you think about it, this is a game where we would have had our crowd behind us. We would have had the crowd into it. I guarantee you they would have been booing or chanting something every time Mac McClung touched the ball.
Sure. No doubt.
We didn't have any of that. I mean, I think at one time I thought I've faintly heard like I'm going to guess it was probably Eric Martin, maybe a couple of the managers on one side, and then maybe like I don't know if Emmett Matthews' parents or somebody's parents were on the other side of the Coliseum saying "Let's go" and Mountaineers. I mean, it sounded like 4 people on one side and like 3 on the other responding.
I mean, if you had a full Coliseum, that would have been completely. I mean, first of all, the place would have just been on fire,
Yeah.
and that would have been a completely different game, I think.
Yeah, that's the shame of it because and those guys deserved that. Like coming back from all that stuff, gearing down and really knocking out this Texas Tech team. I mean, 10 playing 11, come on, the Coliseum would have been fired up. And I think the other thing too, Scoot, that I've been trying to reconcile today, just as I was kind of reading post-game stuff and looking at these stats, I have a hard time. I can't remember a game where I watched us shoot 60%, 58% overall from the field, 63%, 12 of 19 from 3-point range, and then 16 of 27 from the foul line. It's like usually those percentages are in some reverse order, I feel like, but
yeah, Johnson, the percentage from 3-point just blew my mind. I mean, shooting in the second half, 6 for 9 at 66%. They were just on fire, making shots against Texas Tech.
yeah. And something else, Scoot, that I thought was interesting. I guess it makes sense with minutes being kind of redistributed, but I also don't remember the last time I saw all 5 starters and really 6 people overall, if you count Sean McNeil, he didn't start, but had double digit points, and that seems like a rarity as well.
Well, that's we've often lamented. I'm going to use the word lament. I never have used it ever.
I like it
So
when
I'm
you
gonna
go
use it
big
now.
words. Yeah, I like it when
we
you go big
often
words.
lament about our lack of offense, and I think if you were to look at our last, well, really since we've started conference play, the offense has been there. What's been maybe a little bit more concerning is our defense because we're giving up over 80 points, to Texas Tech. So we kind of dug ourselves in a hole in the first place defensively. But, to see what you said, 6 guys in double figures, I mean, we scored 87 points. That's not too shabby offensively. We're starting to see the threes. I think we're starting to see what Coach Huggins has been talking about for 2 years start to actually translate into actual games.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Is this game a turning point for the season? Is this going to be a turning point with this kind of win, the guys being into it, the celebration afterwards, being down at one point with, I think, about 10 minutes or so left to go, maybe even less than that. We're down by 12. We fight back. We win. It's resilience, Is this a turning point in our season, you think?
Well, I know I text you guys that we went under 7. We went down 10. Texas Tech was looking really confident. We were looking really tired. And I think I text you guys this, and I think at that point we were like 9 of 17 from the foul line. So even when you're stopping the clock, you're not really helping yourself out. And I remember texting you guys, this feels bad. This feels bad. Like we know where this is going. And that's why, the more I think about it, the more proud I am of these guys for digging down and not giving up and really coming back. And so to answer your question, I think it could definitely be one of those games where they look back and they say, look, not only is that a top 10 team, but the shape we were in, we had to come together. People aren't at 100%. I think it could definitely be one of those that they rally around. Like when you go into the rest of the schedule, because, oh, by the way, it's going to be a horrendous schedule to navigate still. If you ever had some confidence shaking events come up, I think you could point back to this and say, hey, we've been here before. We've done this. Let's keep our head in the game and let's move forward. I think it could be a strong anchor point.
For me, it's not a turning point. It's a reaffirmation, right? So these guys coming into the season, it was a fairly highly touted team. There was a lot of talk that they were a top 10 team to start. We've documented, or it's been documented. I guess we haven't documented anything. But it's been documented that, they were a Ken Palm top 10 team, Fran Fraschilla, Seth Davis, Andy Katz, anyone that knows basketball was saying that we were, a challenger for the conference title, possibly a top 5, possibly a number 1 seed. all this kind of talk. Could be a Final Four year for Hugs. And then we get sucker punched in the stomach and lose Oscar. And that, well, to be honest with you, we didn't really lose Oscar. Oscar played mediocre at best in the beginning, which didn't help us. And then he leaves. So now everyone's, if you remember the first couple games, that was the story. How is this team going to adapt? How are they going to, and I think what these guys have done here in the last, really the last month, is prove to everybody that they're not just one player, right? So they're not going to be made up by one player. They're not going to be defined by that. And they care about each other. And Hugs even tweeted something about that today. He tweeted a picture of the guys all kind of piling on Deuce McBride and talked about how much he loves guys like this. And these are his guys because they care about each other and not individuals. And, you see Deuce McBride could have easily been carried off the floor last night. And what they do, they went over and they mobbed him, hugged him. They kind of tackle him. Then when he gets into the locker room, they splash him with water again. I mean, so this team, I feel like they've hit some adversity, maybe more so than a typical year, and they're showing that they can overcome some of those things. And I think it could be a very special season solely for the fact that they've overcome as much as they have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And before we leave this, just Scoot, because you brought up Oscar, which makes perfect sense. And Guido, I'm not sure if you know this, but Jalen Bridges, who's from Fairmont, I'm not sure if you're aware of that or had heard. He was from just down the road.
I am aware of that.
He practically grew up with Mac McClung. They're neighbors.
Right. I mean, just down the road.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention to what Jalen Bridges is doing, then you're if you're lamenting Oscar like we haven't replaced
nice
that
use of the word lament
with well you got it in my head, so I feel like I wanted to just like one up it now. Last night again versus Texas Tech, he goes 5 of 8, 3 of 4 from behind the arc in 19 minutes, 13 points. I mean, he just continues to prove what Hugs had been saying about him, and he has really come in and picked up the slack, picked up kind of right where we wanted things to be to begin with Oscar. So, I think he's quietly he's really quietly helping this team continue forward in a positive way.
Yeah, and as Herd Hater, our buddy Herd Hater would say, Jalen New River Bridges is what he called him last night on Twitter, which I think I tweeted a little laugh at thing gif there, and Jalen kind of liked both of those. JB is going to be a force to be reckoned with on this team. And Fran Fraschillo said it best last night that Jalen Bridges might be the best shot or the number one NBA rated, player on the team. He's just that diverse. He's that good of a player. He needs another year, but I mean, this time next year, guys, we may be talking about Jalen Bridges leaving to go to the draft.
Well, I think it's interesting.
Guido, I would like to take a moment on behalf of all Mountaineer fans and do something for you.
Okay.
I want to thank you for teaching his dad how to play the game the right way
at a young age.
And so his dad has, of course, imparted these things on young Jalen.
Obviously.
So, Guido, thank you.
Yes, from all of us.
I'm sure Jalen's dad will have very fond memories of 6th and 7th grade basketball while he's out there hitting some nice shots, some nice jumpers, looking back on the bench and seeing me there clapping and cheering him on, because
old number 43, right? Weren't you number 43?
It all goes back
I think I was
to
43, was it?
Yeah. Listen, we need to tweet that photo out. Can we get that tweeted out?
I'll get that. I'll fire that one up. It's been out there on the Twitter before. But yeah, Jalen looked great, and then it can't go without saying that, Deuce McBride continues to show how clutch he can be in a game.
Yes.
And Huggins said in the post game that was exactly the play that they drew up, and Huggins said Eric Martin drew it up. That wasn't even Huggins' idea. The idea was, all Eric Martin's. That was exactly how the play was supposed to be drawn. It was drawn up to go from the inbound, and then it gave a couple of outs to to Deuce. He could have shot it out to Jalen for a 3 in the corner. You saw some other options there for him.
It looked like Taz came up to try to set a screen, and he kind of missed the screen, or the screener got hedged and went around him. So in a way, I felt like, man, we kind of dodged a bullet there because the screen wasn't all that clean, and but still Deuce was able to get the shot off, and he doesn't miss. I think that kind of stuff. There are some guys out there, and I've coached some in soccer and in basketball. There are some kids out there that, like, the moment it's not too big for them, and that's how Deuce is.
Right.
It's not it's his moment. It's not the moment. You know what I mean? It's just a kind of a surreal thing.
Well, and also, Guido, that was Hug's win number 892. So we're closing in on this 900 wins, and it was also his 20th win over a top 10 team while he's been at WVU. I thought that was interesting.
Apparently, I feel going forward that anyone that gets elected into the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame, must eclipse 900 wins.
Yes, it's
before
only
they
fair,
get there,
right? Obviously,
Yeah,
that
right.
is the
How is it
threshold.
possible that he's not, like, 900 wins? There are not even 6 coaches ahead of him, right? I mean,
The
it's
nominees
crazy.
came out again, and he's listed on the nominees. So we'll find out here in a few weeks if he gets into the Hall of Fame. I mean, if he doesn't, I feel like there might be an insurrection of Mountaineer fans on the National Basketball Hall of Fame if he doesn't get elected.
Before we leave this topic, real quick, if the Hall of Fame, and I'm not really familiar with the Basketball Hall of Fame, I know, like, in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, players get to choose a cap, or sometimes the cap is chosen for them, obviously, if it's posthumous, and it's based on whichever team they had the most success or whatever.
Right.
If there is some sort of bust or some sort of plaque, I pray that it does not include Huggins wearing the camouflage long sleeve shirt under the pullover. I've never seen that look before. That one was new for me. I don't know
if you
what was
noticed,
going on
Scoot,
there.
but when the game went off and it cut to ESPN, Scott Van Pelt
Pelt,
made a comment about, like, his I don't remember what he said exactly now, but like the best dressed man or dapper dressed man, something like that.
Like, what in the world was going on there?
Yeah, so they put photos up, Scoot. That, just so you know, it's a photo of you. It's pretty much like an embossed plaque photo of you. So
Okay,
we'll see what Huggins. We'll see. What
maybe
Huggins
he gets
wears.
that buttercream suit.
Yeah, yeah, right. All right, so West Virginia, a great win, a fun game to watch over the Red Raiders, and hopefully it's a good jumping off point and gets us back and energized again. We play in the Big 12 SEC Challenge this Saturday at the Coliseum against the Florida Gators, and Johnson, people are going to be in the stands.
Yeah, well, 1,000 of them anyway. Some people. So I guess, we'll take whatever we can get, but WVU announced plans to let fans back in the Coliseum on that January 30th game, and then moving forward. So
They've got to justify the new seats.
They'll
scoreboard.
cap it, but still they're letting some folks in. So that's a start.
So Florida currently 4th in the SEC and not ranked in the top 25. The SEC, actually, little trivia for you here, guys. The SEC only has one team ranked in the top 25 right now, last I checked, and it's Alabama is ranked like 14th, I think, something like that. Yeah. Is the SEC, Scooty, like
Beetle
just
and Alabama?
Beetle's not with him anymore. Beetle played, I think last year was his senior year.
Oh, okay.
Beetle Bolden, yeah. The SEC in basketball, man, like, what's going on with it? It seems like it's a mess this year.
It does seem like it's a mess because there are some teams that, at the very least, have some notable coaches. Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, Calipari, of course, at Kentucky. So right there are 3 very well-known coaches and very strong programs typically that are struggling. Florida's another one that's a typically strong program, but is not as strong as, I guess, maybe what they thought or what is playing out.
I don't know. I mean, I can't ever remember a time that I can remember hearing Alabama being the best basketball team in the SEC, undefeated against the conference right now. So, but Florida, not bad. 5-3, 8-4 overall as they come in this weekend to Morgantown. That game is on Saturday at 2 p.m. and it will be on the big one, guys, ESPN. It's on the main network.
You don't have to plus it up this weekend, Scoot.
I don't have to plus it. You don't have to plus it up for that one, Scoot.
I will not plus it up this weekend.
Well, let's talk a little bit about WVU football. Guys, I don't even really want to talk about it, but I feel like we have to say something about it because we may have gotten a little bit in the mix yesterday on Twitter over the whole Darnell Wright and him kind of, I don't know, was he trolling the WVU fans? Was he really thinking about coming to Morgantown? What do you guys think? So Darnell Wright, spends the last couple of months, he apparently unenrolled from Tennessee. He said he was looking, maybe transferring. Then he announced earlier in the week that he was going to announce where he's going to play football next year on some random Instagram site, which he did at 6:00 on Tuesday went 6:00 on Monday, and then announces that he's staying with Tennessee. And the West Virginia fans went nuts.
I think part of it, yes, he was kind of playing the game. Part of it, though, it probably would have been more, I guess, upsetting or troll-worthy had Tennessee not replaced their coach or in the process of replacing their coach. So because Jeremy Pruitt's gone, it seemed realistic that Darnell Wright might make a decision as to whether or not he was going to stay or go or whatnot. Had the coaching staff remained the same and he still did this, I think people would have gone bananas even more so, because what's the point in doing that? Like, who does that when there's nothing really forcing you one way or the other? He had never left to go to he's never been in the transfer portal, to my knowledge. So had he put himself in the portal and made this kind of decision, okay, I guess, but he was just a student there. Nothing really changed.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess the story with Pruitt is they were handing out McDonald's bags full of money to recruits, I guess.
He was getting his supersized.
Well, and so our boy Jeremy Kreitz, honestly, so Scoot and I have this thing where we don't often use LOL because we got into a conversation a while back, like, did you genuinely laugh out loud or are you just typing LOL? But Jeremy Kreitz got me the other night. He responded. So Darnell Wright had a tweet out there, Guido, I think that you're referencing, that he said, I'm staying. Okay, bye. Peace. Like peace sign. And Jeremy Kreitz responded, pays better than most places. # I'm loving it. And I don't know, the I'm loving it just cracked me up. I just love stuff like that. It just made me, it caught me off guard and genuinely made me LOL.
Yeah, so. I think what was interesting about it for me is you have all of that. You have certain, we'll say, media outlets that were spending a lot of time tweeting and releasing articles about how he's coming back to Morgantown. And then, Twitter goes crazy about it. And then he kind of fuels the flame by, saying, hey, I'm going to have this big announcement. And then he has this big announcement. And then 2 minutes after he makes the announcement that he's staying at Tennessee, he actually tweets out and then deletes it shortly thereafter. He actually tweets out, wish Neil had more time, could have been iconic. And then a gold and blue heart. So I don't know, man. It's just, and part of me, I think where I really want the conversation to go with us is part of me is like, they've got to figure out a way to not allow these guys to do this, because they're the ones that start to incite all of the craziness with it. And it's social media and it's the world that we live in today, but I'm going to make an announcement. It's going to be a big announcement. And like Scoot said, he hadn't done anything. He hadn't really entered the portal. He hadn't really said that he was leaving.
Do you think, let me ask you this, and I know this is maybe a stretch, is there any blame to go toward LeBron James for this kind of stuff?
For Darnell Wright
Some
not coming to West Virginia.
Announcement? Yes, this is a stretch, Scoot.
No,
but
with the decision where it's
You're talking about the South Beach. You're talking about going to South
where
Beach.
he took his talents to South Beach because he made a big TV show of it. Like now that's a thing where people want to.
No, Scoot, look, it's young people. I think it's like, young people are all over the place. It's like when my daughter the other night made a comment to me about disposable thumbs. And I said, you mean opposable thumbs? Like young people's brains are all over the place. I think he just saw the opportunity to maybe have some fun and like get under people's skin. He probably
Johnson going all old man on us right here. Johnson's like, little kids have mushy brains.
underdeveloped
Well,
brains.
listen,
on
if it
these
makes you
youngins.
feel any better,
Underdeveloped brains.
last night my teenage daughter declared that she was going to go to the kitchen and look in the fridge.
Like, let it be known.
That was her. She did.
Yes,
Did she tweet it out?
She might have even She might have.
Yeah. Did she tweet it out? Big announcement.
Yeah.
Big announcement coming at 8:30.
Going to the kitchen.
Yeah. Going to the kitchen, checking the fridge.
Peace, orange heart.
I wish I had more time in the freezer. Could have been iconic.
Here's my ultimate thing about it, guys. It's like, am I sad that this 5-star recruit isn't going to come to WVU? I guess so. Does it change anything? Does it really make that big of a difference in where the program goes? I don't think so. I think that, you're talking about 100 guys that are probably in one way or another connected as players to the team that are either redshirt or, walk on or whatever it might be. One guy's not going to make a difference. And, the fans going all amok about it, everybody needs to simmer down and realize, hey, listen, he's not playing. There'll be another guy. That role will be filled by somebody else.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people, Guido, like you and I, if we're being honest, like we love the hometown guys. We love the thoughts of like we let one get away. Let's get the hometown guy back. And you kind of, it's sort of like it feeds itself, and then suddenly 700 people are following this random, Instagram account trying to see what he's going to say. So he's obviously entitled to do whatever he wants. I think he probably had some fun with this. And it, like you just said, next season when we roll around and we're looking at the offensive line, we're not even going to probably even remember that this happened. I have a feeling.
What's interesting, I think I come in with a slightly different point of view in the sense that I'm not the hometown guy. I didn't go to the hometown school. Everybody that I knew and grew up with, I would say, much like for you guys, 80% of the people I grew up with went to UConn, where I would venture to guess you guys were probably, maybe it was 60-40 WVU Marshall or something like that, but probably mostly WVU. And I don't know. I think for some kids, they don't really want to stay at home. I didn't want to stay at home, and that's how I ended up.
That's
kind of where I
you're
was.
Exactly right. No, you're exactly right, Scoot.
But unfortunately, they get a lot of some of those guys get a lot of pressure from fans, and people are like, "Well, you've got to play for your hometown. You're not a true West Virginian if you want to go somewhere else,
right.
And God forbid the kid want to go to some other place, like." People are going to give him a hard time about it.
No, you're totally right.
And like you guys said, is it disappointing? No, maybe it could have been handled a little bit differently in the sense that I think, yes, he probably knew he was getting people's hopes up, but at the same time, he's a 20-year-old guy, probably could care less about social media and who's upset with him on social media. So good for him, and I think we'll be fine.
In good news, we have some good news that came this week for current players, which is one, Letty Brown announces he's coming back, which I know there was some question, but it's great to see Letty Brown is going to return next season. And on top of that, a lot of starters, 9 starters are coming back, or 9 mostly started are coming back on the defensive side. So it's going to be a good team. WVU has got, they've come out in the way too early preseason polls, ranked in the top 25. I'm excited about that. Other little West Virginia sports things to think about that are coming up. One is congratulations to Clint Trickett, who's coming back to the state of West Virginia, just not to Morgantown. He's going to be in Huntington as receivers coach at Marshall University. So good to him. It's good to see him back. I always liked Clint Trickett. It's nice to have him, and I know he's kind of a homer guy, and Johnson, like he said, we love the homer guys.
Yeah.
And Scoot, you'll be excited to hear Isaac McNeely
Polka.
going to be announcing where he's going to go and play his college basketball this Saturday at 2 p.m. You think we got anybody? You think any listeners have some inside details for us? Any?
Yeah, can Kreitz get us some insight or something? Can we some insider info?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's Polka. I mean, Kreitz has got to know somebody that's related somehow to him. I mean, it's like what? They're like 20 people in that town, right? They all,
Scoot, what would you do if Isaac McNeely at 2 p.m. on Saturday keeps everyone in suspense and then says, "Stay in it, Polka. Peace out, Red Heart."
Yeah. Wish Hugs had more time. Could have been iconic.
All right, guys. Well, listen, let's take a break real quick. We'll come back with the #1 game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast. It's a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluffs. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On. Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high quality steel, fast opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives. All right, welcome back to Got Your Eers On. Guido along with Scoot and Johnson. Don't forget, check us out on the social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Just look for us at Got Your Ears. You can also look for us on Facebook at Got Your Eers On. Guys, it's time to play the #1 game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast, a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluffs. And Scooty has a 2-0 lead right now in season 2 of Bluff the Fluffs.
Some might say I'm undefeated this year.
You are undefeated currently.
Scoot, I was going to say, because we're kind of baseball nerds at heart, all three of us, I'm 2 games back.
You could
2 games back. Well, see, 2 games back, you wouldn't be worried.
No, and hence I am not.
Since we're also baseball fans, I'll say that you're in the cellar.
There's
That is
2
true.
of us.
That is
I'm in
also
second place.
So last week we did little questions trivia about Chuck Yeager, West Virginia, famous West Virginian, broke the sound barrier, passed away recently. This week, guys, I thought I would do some questions to help prepare you for Saturday's Big 12 SEC Challenge game against the Florida Gators and talk a little bit about the history of West Virginia versus the Gators.
All right.
Okay.
Scoot is nonplussed.
Well, I don't know where this is going to go.
He seems
I'm
nervous.
a little confused.
Yeah.
Scoot, as the owner and wearer of a Florida Gators shirt, I felt like you'd like this line of questioning.
I like the state of Florida. I have a lot of family that lives there. I genuinely
you like the news out of Florida. You're a big.
I like watching Swamp People, even though it's not set in Florida. I do like alligators.
What was the police show?
Live PD. Live PD.
Live
Yeah,
PD, a lot of stations.
huge
Live PD was great.
fan.
Yeah, Florida-wise.
Love Live PD. I miss it terribly.
So here we go, guys. We'll see how we do. As always, a correct answer is worth 5 points. A steal is worth 10 points. And Final Bluff is worth 25 points. Before we started, we had a complete and total random flip of the coin. And Scooty, you came out on top this week. You get to go first.
It's about time.
It's about time, he says. You looked a little surprised when I said that. I felt like Scooty was ready for you to come out first, Johnson, and he was a little surprised by it.
Well, it's a 2-headed coin, so it's hard to beat him.
All right, so here we go, Scoot. First question is to you. The last time that WVU played Florida was in the 2018 Jimmy V Classic. WVU lost that game 56-66. But who was the high scorer for WVU for that game? Was it Asa Ahmad, Emmett Matthews, Chase Harler, or Wesley Harris?
It's a tough question. I don't know. 2 of those guys got booted off the team that same year. I'm going to go with Asa Ahmad. He might have sleptwalked through it, but I'm going to say that he was the leading scorer.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Johnson, Emmett Matthews, Chase Harler, or Wesley Harris?
I feel like this is a bit of a trick question, Guido, so I'm going to go with Wesley Harris.
It would have been good if that was the answer, but no, it was Chase Harler. Chase Harler had
Yikes.
13 points in that game, so came out with the leading scorer in that game. All right, so nobody gets any points there.
All right, Scoot, starting off hot.
Starting off hot. Johnson, this next question is back to you. The first time WVU ever played Florida, they blew out the Gators by 47 points, 114-67. What future WVU head coach played in that game? Was it Bob Huggins, Gail Catlett, Sonny Moran, or Marshall Glenn? Johnson?
Okay, another Crazy Legs McCoy.
Well, you should at least know three of those
Greasy
coaches.
Neal.
Three of those coaches you should at least know. Three of those coaches you should know.
Yeah, I think
They all were coaches for WVU. They all were head
with
coaches.
I know that actually.
I didn't make
just
that
don't
up.
know which. I'm trying to think of time periods and maybe when this would have fallen. I think I'm gonna have to go with Sonny Moran.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Scooty, back to you. Was it Bob Huggins, Gail Catlett, or Marshall Glenn?
Well, I only know two of those three, and I'm not going to guess the one I don't know. I'll go Bob Huggins just for yucks.
No, I'm sorry. That's incorrect. It was Gail Catlett. Gail Catlett was on that team in 1963 with Rod Thorne, and Gail Catlett played.
Oddly enough, the jerseys were made of leather back then.
did.
Yes.
And that's why he opted for the leather jacket
Yes.
once he was a coach.
Little known WVU.
WVU fact. He was always partial to leather. Gail Catlett was. So all right. So we're starting off
That's
hot.
gotta smell bad. Gotta smell bad when you start sweating.
Nobody's got any points so far. This one is going to go down to the wire, folks.
It's a barn burner.
It's a
so
barn
far.
burner. All right, Scooty, this next question is back to you. WVU has played in the NCAA tournaments more times than Florida. 29 times for WVU, 22 times for Florida. But Florida has more Final Fours. How many Final Fours does Florida have? Is it 3, 2, 5, or 8?
That's a good question. I'm going to say Florida has 5 Final Fours.
That's correct. 5 Final Fours for Florida, including two back-to-back national championships in 06 and 07. So
Yes,
Good.
Udonis Haslam and Joakim Noah.
Yeah.
good job, Scoot. Good job. So Scoot takes the lead there, Johnson, with a correct answer. So 5 points.
Well,
to
I mean,
Scoot.
somebody had to get one right.
Somebody
right?
had to get
I
one right
mean,
eventually.
Scoot's getting us kicked off here. Now we're good. Now we're in the flow.
All right. The last time WVU won, Johnson, this question is for you. The last time WVU won over Florida was in 2002. The score was 68-66. Which one of these players was not in the starting five that day? Was not in the starting five. J.D. Collins, Tyrone Sally, Frank Young, Joe Hairbear.
Yeah, that was a game in Charleston. They weren't really expected to even be competitive, and they ended up upsetting Florida. So J.D. Collins and Joe Hairbear were definitely there. What I can't think of is between Frank and Tyrone Sally. I cannot think. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say Frank Young was not on that team.
That's correct. Frank Young started the next year.
He was younger.
He was
I was
younger,
gonna say
yeah.
he's younger.
Right. Yeah. So Johnson, good job there. You get 5 points on that one, and we're all tied back up. And Scooty, back to you. Current Chicago Bulls head coach and former head coach at Florida, Billy Donovan, built the Gators to pretty much being a dynasty throughout the 90s and early 2000s, including 2 national championships, like we said, back-to-back in 06 and 07. But what Big East school did he play basketball at? Was it
Providence.
Correct. Providence is the correct answer. Scooty didn't even give you a chance to.
He played for Rick Pitino.
Yeah, he did play for Rick Pitino. And I'm sorry that the flip of the coin hurt you there, Johnson. You probably would have known that question too. But Scooty, the old Big East schools, man, he can just chew you up on those.
Yeah, you asked the guy from Watertown if he's knows his Friars or not.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
I already know the answer.
All right, congratulations, Scoot. You take the lead 10-5 right now over Johnson. And Johnson, this next question last question before final bluff is back to you. WVU has faced Florida 9 times in history, at least basketball history. How many of those times have they beat Florida? So out of the 9 times they've played, how many wins does WVU have? Is it 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Whew. Out of the 9 times, I'm going to say they've won 5 of those times.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Scoot, back to you. Is it 2, 3, or 4?
I feel we are 3-6 against Florida.
I feel you're correct, Scooty. Man, Scoot is tearing it up this year in Bluff the Fluffs. It's kind of upsetting for you, Johnson.
Or you too. See, it's scripted. It is scripted. He's upset. He's angry because I'm going off script on him.
Oh, man. Scoot might have an insurrection on this game.
Honestly.
He's beside himself. He's like, I thought he would get these wrong.
I never thought you would get these wrong.
Listen,
I
know what's up.
I have faith in you, Scoot. All right, here we go. So we're on the final bluff right now. Scooty has the lead 15-5 over Johnson. As always, final bluff is worth 25 points, and we ask you guys to chime in with your own buzzers. Johnson, what is your buzzer for this week?
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl? Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the last time I was at the Sugar Bowl. We were playing Florida, and Darren Studstill had like his nose through his ear hole of his helmet. Unfortunately, I had that on my mind. So Sugar Bowl.
Kind of like how you're doing right now in Bluff the Fluffs. Okay.
Yes, I have to readjust my helmet here going into Final Bluff.
And Scooty, what's your buzzer for this week?
Sugar buns.
This is just going to confuse me.
What are sugar buns?
What are sugar
Wait a
I don't
minute.
even know, but I thought it was funny and would be very confusing.
All right. Well, let's try this out, see if we don't make any mistakes here. All right, here we go. West Virginia has faced Florida 9 times, we previously discussed. Where have they played the most games? So what venue have they played the most games in? Is it Florida's O-Dome, the O'Connell Center, West Virginia University Coliseum, the Charleston Civic Center, or Madison Square Garden?
Sugar buns.
All right, Scoot, you're in first. What's your guess?
I feel they've played in Charleston, West Virginia the most.
That's correct. The correct answer for Scooty, and a win. 25 points gets Scoot a massive win over Johnson, 40-5. Yes, they've played 3 times at the Charleston Civic Center. Crazy.
I was gonna guess that, but then I thought that was too obvious, and that leads me to the question of why.
Why? Like,
Well, I think it's
Scoot, I would interject. There are fewer places that are bigger dumps than
Oh, I
the
would
Charleston
agree.
Civic Center.
they've played at the Charleston Civic
agree.
Center, and 3 times they won. The last time they played in Civic Center, which was that 2002 game we talked about, and then they played twice, 63 and 68. They played in the Charleston Civic Center.
Well, I mean, maybe it was nice then. I don't know, but why
well,
would we
from-
choose to showcase
from-
it there?
Well, from what I've heard, and I think some of the reports back to the colleges were that the fans preferred the sticky floors and the multicolored seats.
Yes, that would make sense.
They've actually
If you're looking for that,
They've actually never played in the Coliseum. This Saturday, when we face them at 2:00 on ESPN, it'll be the first time the Florida Gators have ever played in the Coliseum. They've been in Morgantown once before. In 1970, they played in the old field house, but this will be the first time that they play in the Coliseum. So,
yeah, it just seems so weird. 9 9 appearances and none have been played in the Coliseum.
You know what
That's
else seems weird is the fact that I have to say this phrase. Scoot now leads Bluff the Fluffs 3-0 over Johnson. And I remember a point last year, Johnson, where I think you were like 5 games up on Scoot, and he came back. He was like WVU versus Texas Longhorns a couple weeks ago. Like he came back, but just couldn't pull it off last minute. But this time he's taking the lead.
I think if you were to look at my November to now record, you'd find that Johnson is outmatched, outwitted, and outplayed.
Yeah, that might be true.
And I also have a championship trophy. So
that is true. All right, guys, let's take a break. We're going to come back with a segment where we let Scooty find out what's happening in the world of somebody else's world. It's a little segment we like to call, I Can't Believe My Ears. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Ears On.
Tactical Legion Knives, a West Virginia owned and operated company that specializes in heavy-duty tactical knives and gear for the professional warrior, the weekend warrior, and the outdoor warrior. Our products are built tough. For who? For warriors. Hey Mountaineer fans, make sure you go on Amazon and search Tactical Legion Knives, and when you do, make sure you put in the promo code 25TOBRADIO for Tob Radio. You'll get 25% off on Tactical Legion Knives.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Guido along with Scoot and Johnson. And don't forget, get on our website, check out the merch section, and check out all the great information we have there, Johnson.
Yeah, so every week we post the latest blog post with all the show notes and the links in the show notes of everything we talked about. And on the site, gotyourearson.com, you can also find that link to merch. You can check out all the new stuff we're adding all the time to the merch store. And you can listen to the latest show right in the tune-in link that's on the homepage. So check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Check it out, gotyourearson.com. Well, as we do every week, we allow Scoot to go out on the internet and find something that he thinks is interesting and we think is probably weird. It's a little segment we like to call, I Can't Believe My Ears. What do you got for us this week, Scooty?
Okay, fellas. So as you know, we are in the middle of a pandemic. It's
Yes.
not enjoyable. Some of us haven't gone anywhere, let alone travel. When was the last time you went, let's say, more than 200 miles from your house, Johnson?
Yeah, I can't think of it, Scoot. I guess it was probably maybe like Christmas time of, 2019 into 2020.
I don't know if you heard about this story. It came out last week about the gentleman who flew from California to Chicago, then was scared of COVID and refused to leave the airport and hung out in the airport for 3 months.
What? 3 months in the airport?
So it wasn't until he got to Chicago that he was like, I got to Chicago and I heard some bad stuff about this COVID character.
Yes. A 36-year-old man lived undetected in a secure section of the Chicago
undetected
O'Hare International Airport.
How do you live undetected in an airport? Like, doesn't somebody like that's, whatever, cleaning or doing something
or
like at the airport or security? like
this raises so many
like,
other concerns for me.
He, I guess, had come across somebody's ID badge that belonged to an operations manager who reported it missing. So this guy lived in O'Hare Airport from October to January. Like he just recently got caught.
But now people had to. Okay, let me process this a little bit, Scoot. Like if I just decided I'm going on a trip and then I never come back from that trip, or I never arrive at my destination.
What happened to where's my good buddy?
I would think someone would be like, hey, wasn't he supposed to be here 2 days ago and it's now March?
Yeah, wasn't Steve supposed to be?
Where's
Steve's been gone a long time.
Where's Aditya? Where'd he go? And Aditya Singh, Aditya, Aditya Singh charged with felony criminal trespass to a restricted area of an airport. Here's the thing that concerns me, right? So what was his reason for not continuing either with his next leg of his flight or
Right.
stopping and visiting wherever he was supposed to? They don't really know why he was going that way. But what was the reason for that? I believe I told you in the beginning.
Oh, I didn't know that was going to be a
why
test.
Why was he stuck in this airport? So supposedly
Because he was afraid of COVID.
He was
got
scared
fear,
of COVID.
afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he survived living off of other passengers' leftover food.
What?
Yeah.
You're afraid of COVID and you're picking trash you're picking like a half-eaten sandwich that some rando threw in the trash?
Yeah. He survived on food from other passengers.
He's like, man, this guy, you can't just throw a whole piece of Sbarro pizza away. I got to eat that.
You know what? I got the answer, guys. I know what this is. This guy he's a huge Tom Hanks fan and
Terminal.
was just trying to relive that weird
Terminal.
that weird Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
He's unemployed, so that won't surprise you.
It doesn't surprise
so
me.
nobody at work was looking for him.
Right.
But here's the thing. Flights, I know that the airlines industry has taken a bit of a hit, but are they still that cheap where you can just throw a couple $100, go from Los Angeles to Chicago, and I don't know, not think twice, just hang out? I don't know. I hem and haw visiting like family in Florida, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know if that's expensive. That's an expensive trip. This guy's just willy-nilly going to Chicago and hanging out for a while.
Well, and look, anytime I've been in an airport, I don't want to be in that airport for longer than the duration of whatever my layover time is. I certainly don't want to be there from October to January.
There's never a time I think about, hey, I want to hang out in the airport.
Yeah, I've never once been like, you know what, I would just live here.
Do you think he was like casing the Hudson News garbage cans? And
right, he had to have been, I would think.
I mean, I would venture to guess he was on a steady diet of Auntie Anne's.
Right. Or like, whatever
Cinnabon,
Sbarro, or
Cinnabon. There's only so much Cinnabon and Auntie Anne's and Sbarro pizza you can handle.
Hudson News is kind of like the Walden books
of airports.
Yeah, airport establishments.
Yeah.
I feel like
I just don't. I mean, I'm a germaphobe, admittedly, and if I'm worried about COVID, which I mean, think it in any of our minds at times we kind of may have had a little trepidation trying to comprehend what exactly has been happening, but I don't think I try to combat a kind of a disease or an illness with doing something else, maybe even more germy than what I'm afraid of. Like, I'm not digging through garbage looking for somebody's food.
I'm the same way. Like, when I go on a trip in the airport, like before COVID, like pre-COVID, like I even get skeeved out, like sitting in the black leather seats that you have to sit in. Like, I'm like, man, I think these feel dirty. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like now. I would definitely, like, if I went to an airport, I don't think I'd sit down. I'd stand up the whole time, first of all. And second of all, it's like, if you are so afraid of COVID, like you're sleeping on an airport floor,
Right.
you're
eating
the...
You're using probably a restroom that's used by everybody in the, coming and going, or maybe you didn't even use a restroom.
Well, and why would you have set out on your trip to begin with if you were concerned about
Good questions.
COVID?
A lot of questions.
Feel like there's more to this story.
I feel like I think we're gonna need a follow-up, Scoot, on this story in the coming weeks.
There might be a part 2 on this.
Guys, listen, it's been a good week of basketball. Happy to see the team back and on fire for the last 2 games with wins over K-State and an awesome win over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Last-minute shot by Deuce McBride. Don't forget, we got a great game coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. on ESPN. It's the Big 12 SEC Challenge. And that game's against Florida in the Coliseum. 1,000 fans will be there, so maybe it'll be a little bit louder. people in between cutouts will be kind of fun. So definitely check that out. Don't forget, look for us online. Find us on Instagram and Twitter. You can just look for us at Got Your Ears. You can also search for us, Got Your Ears On, and get us on our website, which is gotyourearson.com. Guys, have a great week. We'll see you next week talking more basketball and whatever else happens with WVU sports. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Got Your Ears On.